Welcome to the Weird Little Business School podcast. I'm Amber Petty, and this is where you get to learn about how to build a business while being a weirdo creative. Now, these first episodes are very special because it's a sneak preview of the Weird Little Business School. What's the difference, you might ask? Well, the Weird Little Business School is an audio-only course where at least 4 days a week, you get new lessons on how to build up your business and not how to build it up according to people who used to be in corporate or a tech bro. You're going to hear it from me, a person who used to do improv comedy and musical theater. Although that may sound like the most horrible of backgrounds to tell anybody about anything, especially something that makes money, I've actually used that background to build a six-figure business, to have 12,000 subscribers, to use very little social media in my business, and I started making money right away. So granted, it was like $400 at first, but in week one of my business, I had $400. So that's not too bad. Weird Little Business School is designed to just cut out so much of the horrible advice I see on the internet because it is stuff that is not geared for creatives and for smart, possibly perfectionistic people like you. So whether you're an actor, a writer, a performer, you're in Hollywood, you're in New York, or if you're just a creative who has a business on Etsy, or you've wanted to do more with your creativity and not be sitting in a 9 to 5 to have another meeting about further meetings, this is for you. So if you just want to build up some side income or you want to grow to six figures and beyond, this is a way to get started to cut out a bunch of goddamn crap that you don't need. As you can see, I'm very official and fancy in how I speak, but I know what I'm talking about. So this is all pulled from what's worked for me, what's worked for my clients who have also helped get bylines, build businesses, and build up their audience, all without feeling like a gross marketing bro or a hateful sellout. So if you want the Weird Little Business School, you can click below to sign up, and starting May 1st, you will get 3 months and go into the whole thing. I'll talk more about that later, but for now, you get 5 episodes that are basically a free preview. This gives you a good idea of if Weird Little Business School would be helpful to you if you like my style. And even if you don't get the further course, this is something you really can use to get started. Today's lesson is what you don't need to get started with a business. So when I say business, and trust me, I'm not going to pull out Webster's and give you that whole spiel. When I say business, I'm just talking about income you make on your own through selling some kind of product of your own. A product could be coaching, ebooks, courses, services. It could be copywriting for somebody. It could be digital design. It could be selling a physical product. So I'm not talking about getting jobs from other people or even getting brand deals. I'm talking about having money on your own. The reason is because it's so good to have your own money. I say that as a former actress who spent most of her time, I'll quit talking in the third person, spent most of my time just waiting around for a chance to even do my job and having to wait for auditions and question if I could dye my hair, because then that would be another $600 in headshots minimum. I got tired of that. And so first I got into freelance writing, where at least if I pitched something, I pitched more, I had a chance of getting it. I found out that my efforts were rewarded more often. And then from there, I built my own business where I do have courses and coaching and workshops. And that was such a major, beautiful shift because having my own products that I could sell anytime, that I can literally just go, I'll sell something now and make money from it immediately, feels like a magic trick. But even if you make $5 off of a download you created in less than a day, it feels very exciting. And it reminds you that all of your creative talents are constantly useful. They aren't just useful to an agent or a manager or a brand or somebody who's going to pick you and suddenly give you a bunch of money or make you wait forever while they go through whatever bullshit they're going through. This is yours. And it's hard too, of course, but I found it much harder to work at least 3 jobs all the time to barely stay afloat. I found it much harder to be in a copywriting job where I felt like most of my stuff just got ignored and I was wasting my time. I found this much less hard than waiting around for somebody to say I was good enough to let me do my job. Just a side note of why I'm so excited about all this. And now is a good time to be building this income of your own. And I know that sounds bizarre because now doesn't seem like a good time for anything on earth. And listen, I'm not saying it's the best of times because then I'd be insane. But the world of online businesses continues to grow. So even now in 2026, there's still a lot of opportunity and you haven't missed the boat. It's not like you've missed the boat. Oh, I didn't do TikTok in time. Oh, I wasn't. Nope. There's always something, a new algorithm or something else entirely. And then it gives you the opportunity to not have to rely on whatever anybody else is handing you. I mean, wouldn't that be fun to just turn down a commercial audition because it was fucking stupid? Turn down a non-union commercial audition because you're like, you know what? I'm not going to pretend I am shocked by this Ross outfit. You know what? I'm not going to do that self-tape. Or if you're, oh, no, I'm not going to do this assignment when I write for $25 about a new kind of Pop-Tart. Nope, no thanks. I will even try less hard at work because if something happened, I already know I have my own shit and I can make that grow. That is a beautiful sense of security and power. And I think the only place you can find that is doing it on your own. So let's get to the stuff you don't need because the internet is full of garbage and a lot of business and marketing stuff is made for very corporate-y people, made by and for corporate people. You are not a corporate-y person. So that might be why some of the business stuff has never felt interesting because you don't have a desire to become boring as shit. That's my guess. So the first thing you don't need, a website. That might surprise you. People get real hung up on their website. It is not of number one importance. Down the road, sure, once you get selling things, have a website, but it is not number one, not at all. So if you already have a website, that's totally fine. If you don't have one, do not start there. And there's better stuff you can do to get better and faster results, which in fact, we will cover in the next episode. Another thing you don't need, an LLC. After you've made a little bit of money, then it's good to get a business account. If you can, get a business account or a business credit card as well, just to make things easier. And I've known people with businesses who still didn't do that for many years, and it was okay. Anything else you don't need? Complicated software. So you do not need this funnel tool or this software for putting all your courses together and Kajabi and this. You don't need any of that to start with. It can be very simple, and I'll tell you exactly what those are in the next episode. Another thing you don't need, listening to any of that quick money bullshit you'll hear all over the internet. Okay? They don't work for you. How do I know? Because if it did work for you to make blank Kindle books or blank Amazon books and sell 1 million journals, you would have already done that. If drop shipping worked for you, you would already be doing it. But for most creative people, your work needs to matter somewhat. So that's why I see most creatives fail when they try these things, because anything you see online that's like, open up Canva, make a printable in 1 hour, start selling it on Etsy, any of that stuff. Like, yeah, technically it works. But to make any significant money, you got to market the shit out of it. That's the truth of any of this. And by marketing the shit out of it, all that means is you have to be able and willing to talk about it a lot and be excited about it and believe in what you're selling. So when it's one of those kind of just nothing products, you're not going to want to talk about it all the time. You're probably going to feel weird selling it, and it doesn't sell easy enough for the money to assuage the weirdness. Because trust me, if any of these things just sold ass loads of cash, I'd be telling you to do it. Trust me, I would be making horse word searches to sell 10 different copies of those on Amazon if they just made tons of money for little effort. But they don't. They all take a lot of effort. So why not sell your own product that uses your own beautiful brain, your actual skills? It creates IP. You own every single part of it. And then it's much easier to sell because it's something you actually care about and believe in. Another thing you don't need, a big audience. How do you get an audience? Well, you're growing your audience. You're growing your chances to sell and also growing your audience for any of the other creative work that you feel like doing. I didn't have a big audience. I guess I had 2,000 people on Instagram, but very few of those really came into my email list. My email list started at 0, and I sold something to them week 2 of them being on my list. Don't have to wait until your audience is big to sell something. You don't have to wait until they've been around for a certain amount of time, or wait until you have a certain size audience to sell something. You can start experimenting with things right away. One caveat to that. If you're like, I want to start a membership, and I go, what size is your audience? And you say 2, I will say that's not a good time to start a membership. It's better to have a larger audience if you're going to have a larger group thing like that. But you want to sell coaching, a workshop, a short course, a book, a service. You can absolutely do that even if your audience is 2. Something else you don't need, a 5-year plan. You don't need a 1-year plan. When I started this business, all I had a plan for was I had an idea for a free workshop during lockdown for actors to find jobs they could do during lockdown. So I thought I was going to be more about career coaching and side jobs. Then after doing that free workshop, I sold coaching at the end of it. And listen, I threw this together. The workshop was very well thought out and covered quite a lot. And then I said, well, if I'm going to do something for free, I want to see if I can have people pay for something. What might I like to do? All right, let me try the small coaching package. And it was coaching to help people figure out what kind of job they might want to try and help them get started in that. I advertised my free workshop. That was the first thing I ever did to build my email list or have any kind of audience. I got 77 people to sign up, which is pretty great. And in that first workshop, I ended up selling 5 packages, which was $1,000. So I think the thing I said earlier was the wrong math, but so I made $1,000 over the course of a week doing some emails after having that workshop. Through those, I found out, people just want to learn about freelance writing. That makes sense. That's what I do. That's what I was most interested in. So I did a workshop on that to test out how it was. I saw, there's interest here. I expanded it to a 4-week course, saw there was interest there and got good results from it, and then expanded into an 8-week course that then I ran quite a bunch of times. So even in just those first 4 months of business, my business totally changed. I really thought it was going to be maybe about side jobs, and I thought it would be tiny side income at most. I didn't even think it would blossom until a full out business. The only reason it did was because I did that first workshop. And I went, oh my God, this is so much more fun than I thought it was going to be. And I really liked working with people. And then I really liked teaching. And then I was like, yay, hooray for everything, and kept going. So now I'm in year 5 and my business is still different. Now I focus more on the marketing side, on starting a business, on getting creatives to get even better at getting publicity and attention for their work. I've seen a lot of people be perfectionistic about this and not want to put out anything until they know, well, what if somebody wanted more? If they bought one workshop, what would I do after that? And after that, well, what could I do then? Or how would it be scalable? The problem is you're not going to know any of these answers until you actually put something out there. With business, this is not stuff you can think through 100%. You can think through the beginnings. What do I want to offer? How do I want to invite people to my list? But after that, it's just a guess. Forcing yourself to make a big plan out of this before you've even put your stuff out there, that makes it much more difficult to get started and makes for a worse business overall because you're more likely to be rigid where you need to be flexible. So the good news is you can be a little half-assed. And listen, I'm telling that to you. I'm not telling that to everybody because listen, anybody who listens to my stuff is a very hard worker who overthinks and is perfectionistic and thinks that their 100% A++ thing was like just barely good enough. So I'm talking to you. So that idea of letting something out there that feels a little imperfect or a little unready, that's going to be key. And that kind of 5-year, 1-year plan that feels required can really get in the way and just slow everything down. And lastly, a thing you don't need is a business mind. I'm putting business in air quotes There's this idea of what a business person is that even I continued to have after I had my business for a few years, where it's like, okay, I'm just screwing around. But a real business, you're like wearing a suit and you're sitting at your desk all day and you've got a nice office and things are very organized and everything like looks nice and official. And that's not true. That's not how it has to be. You get to build a business that looks any way you want. So my business looks like I work from my couch most of the time. My business looks like I get to swear all fucking day if I feel like it. My business looks like wearing amulets. It also gets to look like weird hours. Sometimes working 50 hours a week, sometimes working 10. All over the map. Naps in the middle of the day or staying up late to finish something. Moving with my energy. It looks all the ways because I'm just a regular person and I let my business move with me. So if a part of you thinks starting a business means you have to just get a bunch of spreadsheets and become corporate and boring, the exact opposite is true, especially now. And this is where you are uniquely positioned. Because yes, the internet has all the stuff, but you're actually interesting. You're actually creative. You have a unique mind. You have a personality that's enjoyable. That naturally makes you stand out and will make whatever you do stand out more easily than any people with a regular old business background. You have what they want, quite frankly. And all you have to do is just learn a couple tips over on the business and marketing side and apply it. Quite frankly, all business people have to learn way more shit to compensate for their lack of skills than you do. It's just that nobody talks about it this way. And we've heard so many times that creative people are bad with money, or, they can't get into the numbers and create blah, blah, blah. There's a million reasons they try to keep creative people and money apart and separate. And you just don't need to anymore. You don't need to. If you're bad with numbers, you have an accountant. That's not that hard. It's not even necessarily that expensive. You don't want to do spreadsheets. You want to have a Google Doc, but customer still gets great service every time. Who gives a shit? That's totally fine. So the fun part is we get to make business in a new way. Because our goal, or my goal at least, isn't to make a big-ass billion-dollar corporation. I'm not trying to replicate a kind of thing I hate. I get to make business in a different way, in a way that is easier, that is nice to its employees, where clients are very satisfied, and where me as the business owner am equally satisfied by my life and my job and what I do. And that's the kind of business you can build too. So if you think, well, I don't know, I just don't have a business mind, I highly doubt it. And I'm going to get into more reasons why in a future episode, but take away any of that like tie blazer idea out of your head. That is not what it takes to run a business. Your brain is the gold that so many people would love to have. So now, instead of giving that gold away to an agent or a producer or an editor or a brand, you just are keeping it for yourself. Those are the many things you don't need. And my hope is that things already feel a little simpler, a little more manageable. Okay, in our next episode, we're going to get into what you do need. And listen, with just these 2 episodes, you could quite frankly get started in your business. So this is another key one. Just keep listening to find out. And thank you so much for listening to the Weird Little Business School podcast.